Hello, everybody. Happy stamping time. This is Christine in the Cards by Christine studio in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and I'm here to make an owl card for you. I don't know if you love owls as much as I do, but I am an owl fanatic. There are lots of things that I love. Owls is just one of them. So the stamp set that we're going to be using to make this beautiful owl card is called Still Night. And this is a new stamp set that's available in the holiday catalog, and it is available as a bundle. And the framelits that go with it, or the thinlits that go with it, are Night Owl Thinlits dies. There's a more detailed owl here. There's some snowflakes. There's a label. And then there's also these other framelits, thinlits that we're going to be using. The branches in here. There's one that's shaped like an oval or an egg. And then there's these four little pine cone branch things, and then the owl. So we're going to be using that to cut out the pieces that we're using. So again, we're using the Still Night. We are going to be using the sentiment from it that says sending warm wishes your way. And let's go ahead and get started. So what we have here, the colors are Early Espresso, Mossy Meadow, and Very Vanilla for your traditional cardstock. Then we also have some copper foil paper in here. And then the other embellishment or ribbon on here is the braided linen thread. So we have our traditional mat, which is in Early Espresso, and that is 8.5 by 5.5. And then it's scored at 4.25. And that score line will help us fold that over really nicely. We're going to bring in our bone folder to crease it really good to make it really flat there. So this is our card base. So that's ready to go. Then what we have here is something embossing on here. This is the Woodlands Embossing folder that is available. And so what I have is a piece of vanilla. And this vanilla is 4 13/16 this way, and 3 9/16 that way. So again, 4 13/16 by 3 9/16. And I'm going to move this stuff off to the side, and I will bring in the Big Shot. And we want to make sure that our trees are going the correct way, not like that. They're going to be going up and down on the card. And when I use an embossing folder, I like to make sure that my paper is kind of sandwiched in here good, so that I've got like a tree on the end here and a tree on the end there, versus having like no tree over here and having the tree cut off. So when you're using an embossing folder, you want to make sure you have it in there in a good spot. You never want to go too close to the edge here because there is no design there. So I'm going to bring in my platform and my plates, and then I'm going to roll that through. Move that out of the way. And then you just open up your embossing folder, and voila, you have a really pretty tree paper here. So we're done with the embossing folder for now. And what I'll do is I'll bring back my paper here. We have a piece of Mossy Meadow here. This Mossy Meadow is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And so now we can layer this Very Vanilla piece right on top of that, and we have a really nice little green border around here. So I will go ahead and grab my liquid glue, and for liquid glue, you're just going to put a thin layer around the edges. You don't want to go too close to the edge because then the glue might ooze out. And I love the liquid glue because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. You can go ahead and slide that around if you need to. With traditional mono adhesive or like a more permanent tape, you'd have to rip it up if you don't get it in the spot that you want it. So this is the braided linen trim that I was telling you about. It is on a roll like that, and it's in the holiday catalog, and it's like they're just all braided together here. So you can rip that apart if you want and have fun with that and make something else. But I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to grab my tear and tape and grab a couple pieces of that off, and I'm going to kind of estimate based off of this card where that tear tape should go on the back. And so I am going to layer the tear tape down. Now the more firm you press on there, the easier it will be to pull the paper backing off of the tear tape like that. And then what I do is bring the card front back like this and kind of eyeball it so that it's straight. And then I'll just tuck the ends over and they will be on the tear tape. And because I'm very particular and I don't like ribbon falling apart or off my card, I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple more small pieces of the tear tape and put them right over the top of the linen thread here, the linen trim. Now what we can do is grab our liquid glue again, and we're going to put a thin layer around the edge. Now you don't need to put liquid glue where that tear tape is. Why? Because there's already glue there. So now what we're going to do is lay that right down on here. And you have a little wiggle room again because of the liquid glue. All right, now we're working on our card front. All right, so now we want to build our owl and we want to do our stamping. So we're going to stamp our sentiment, we're going to stamp our owl. As long as we're at it, we're going to stamp our inside here. So why don't we go ahead and get our inks. We're going to start off with our owl. Our owl, we're going to stamp in Memento ink. And the reason we're using Memento is because we are going to be coloring with our Stampin' blends. So Memento is a water-based ink, and when you're using blends which are alcohol-based, you will need to use the water-based ink with the alcohol-based markers so they don't bleed on you. So we're done with the Memento, so I'm going to go ahead. I always like to cover up my ink pads as soon as I'm done using them. So that's ready. I've got a little scrap of Very Vanilla here. I'm going to pull in my Early Espresso ink. And now my pads are very juicy, so I hardly put any pressure on there, and I'm just going to lightly tap, and I will get, oop, that's kind of crooked, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to be I'm cutting it out with the Big Shot, but I wanted it a little bit darker. It was a little light on that side. So even though it's crooked, it doesn't matter because we're going to be using our Big Shot to cut that out. So we'll set that off to the side because we're done with that right now. Our inside, ooh, you know what? I always tell people that we need to decorate the inside with something from the outside. So I did put an owl there. So I always forget about that, and I always try to remind people to do it. So we're going to go ahead and put an owl right down on the bottom here. And if you want to, go ahead and put an owl on your envelope while you're at it, because people love to get matching envelopes with their cards. The Happy Birthday, that comes from a set called Special Celebrations. It's got nice sentiments for outside and inside. A trick that I have for stamping, if I don't know exactly if it's right lined up behind there, is I practice with the edge of my paper. And if I see that it's straight with the edge of my paper, then I feel really confident with the stamp where it's stamping. So we're going to go right like that. Perfect. All right, so stamp off before you clean up your stamp on your Stampin' Scrub. So again, the colors we used here were Mossy Meadow, Early Espresso, and Memento. Okay, so we have our inside ready to go. All you're going to do is put a little liquid glue around the edge on the back here, and then you'll be able to put that inside your card base. If you want, you can go ahead and color your owl at the same time. So blends. That's what we're using to color our owl. So I'm going to do a little coloring with you just to show you how to use Stampin' blends. Because they are alcohol based, the covers are super tight. They're hard to get off and put back on only because air dries out the alcohol. So these need to be very tight caps so that they stay fresh. There is a fine tip and a thick tip. I think that's how they refer to them as, a fine and a thick. And I like to use the fine one when I have little surface areas to cover like this. So I'm going to do his little claws in this crushed curry color. While you can do if you want, do your inside here. Wouldn't be necessary if you didn't have the time and didn't want to color it. You wouldn't have to, but that's all we're using with this color. And then I'm going to pull in here the ivory. I'm going to use the fine tip on the ivory again, just the fine tip again, and I'm going to be coloring around his eye area here. Now, blends are not like your traditional markers. Traditional markers, you color back and forth, and you kind of like wear them out more that way. You want to be very, very gingerly and delicate with, treat your markers delicately. When you're coloring, you want to do small circles. You don't want to wreck the tips of these. They color best when you go in circles. All right, now what do we have here? We need the bronze marker. Okay, so we've got dark crumb cake here, and we've got light crumb cake. And let's see, what we're gonna do is use the dark crumb cake. And in this case too, I'm going to use the thin end. And I want to add a little bit of darkness here, right where his feathers are. So when you use blends, blends are meant to blend colors together. So you get you get to use them a lot to experience shading when you're coloring. So what I'm trying to do is, you see the darker there. So I'm coloring in some darker areas here. And again, I'm doing light feathery strokes. And on here, I'm gonna do his peaks of these feathers, just like this. Now you're saying, well, that's not so pretty, but what happens now is you're gonna pull in, these are both light crumb cake. We're just gonna pull in one of those, and with this one, you're just gonna do small circles over the top of this. And you do wanna go over the top of the darker color because as you see this, it's starting to blend. So you see a little bit of the darkness here. So I'm not gonna color this whole thing because this would take me a little bit too long to do all that, and I think you get the drift. You're just gonna continually go over the top of this, small circles, and that's gonna blend this together. So I've already done a little guy here, so he's all ready to go. And what we have to do next is cut him out. So I'm gonna set some stuff off to the side. We do have a little bit of cutting here. We have an owl that needs to get cut out. We have a saying that needs to get cut out. You can see there's this brown edge under here. That is also this oval that needs to get cut out. And then lastly, we have the copper foil piece. And this is just a 3x3. So if you want, you could get 12 out of a sheet of paper because this is 3 inches by 3 inches. So the other, oh, you guys are gonna laugh at me. I did what I wasn't supposed to do. So there's a trick for conserving paper. And with this card, there are 4 of these little pine bow cone things here, pine bows. And I was supposed to cut, this is a way to teach you to conserve paper. Instead of going and getting more paper from your drawer to cut out these little pieces, what I was supposed to do was cut them out of this green piece, but I was so happy to start assembling and putting the card together that I forgot. So that's quite all right. This is another kit from another card. I can definitely get more than 4 out of this one. So this was awesome about this is Stampin' Up! Has started to put multiple framelits in the same set. So there are 4 of these. So we can cut all 4 at the same time. So we have those 4. We have our owl. We have our branch. We have our oval and our oval. So I'm going to make a little bit of room here so I can bring my big shot in and get the plates lined up. So let's see here. What we've got is our magnetic platform here. And we're going to put the bottom plate on here. And I've got some remnants from the last card, so we're just going to wipe that off. Okay, so we need these 4, doesn't matter where they are on there. We need our copper piece. Now this guy, we have to be careful because I cut him exactly 3x3 and he fits on here a certain way. And then we're just going to go ahead and cut out one of those ovals. So that's what we're going to do for now. We have to do 2 passes anyways because we have to use that oval twice. So let me bring in the big shot. We're going to line this up in here. And I can see that this guy already moved. Let's see, you see how there's magnets in that magnetic platform that makes them a little bit jumpy. So, all right, now we got that lined up where we need it. And I am going to do 2 passes on this because that branch is a little bit more intricate. And when they're more intricate like that, it's good to give them a couple passes through. So I know that this guy is going to be good because he's just cutting out the framelit. I've got this one I'm going to do next, so we'll have to get that situated. These guys look like they cut out really good, so I'm going to just move them out of the way. And let's see what we got for our branch. What I always do is I turn it over and I look to see if it's loose in here. If it's not loose, then I would put this right back on top of here and cut it out some more. But I'm gonna try to gently pull this apart and see if I got it. It looks like it's coming apart. So what I would do with this piece here, I would save, let's rip that off of there. I would save this piece because that is perfectly good and big enough to use for something else. So we're gonna set this branch, actually it's starting to fall out of here. So that came out of here. Now we have to finish up with our owl here and see if we can get him lined up good. Right about there. And then our saying here, let's see if we can get him. He's gonna be a jumpy one, so let's see. Sorry if you see my head in the picture, in the camera. It's hard to lean forward here and not see. It's hard to see without leaning forward, I should say. All right, so, oh, he moved. So, I have some sticky tape that I use for this kind of problem, if it moves around. This is low tack artist tape. It is very, very, very low tack, meaning it doesn't like stick to your paper and rip it like when you pull it off. So just so he doesn't wiggle around on me, I'm gonna secure him. And so this one doesn't wiggle around on me, I'm gonna secure that one as well. So now I should be able to put my top plate on without worrying about them moving around on me. Okay, so we got that done. We'll bring this back in here, and now we've got our owl cut out. We've got our saying cut out. I'm going to take this tape and set it aside because you can use that again. Perfectly fine to use, probably for up to 5 to 10 times, depending on how sticky or how much like from your plate sticks on it. All right, now we're going to look here. We've got our branch here. We can stick our framelit there. We've got that oval. And then what we had left were these little guys. So in this case, what I would do is grab my pokey tool. That's the scientific name for it, pokey tool. And I'm going to put my framelits in that magnetic dish so they don't run away on me. That pokey tool, when I use a pokey tool with this kind of stuff, I always go to kind of the top or like the base. I don't know if it's the top or the base, but like if you pull it this way, then it pulls out because it's aimed in that direction. Whereas if you would start at the bottom here, it's like you're going against the grain to get it out. So I always kind of look to see which way makes the most sense to pull it out. So I've got all 4 of those pulled out now. Now, remember, what I would have done normally is use this green piece to get them out of versus the next card kit to get them out of. So, all right, so now we've got our pieces. What we're gonna do is layer them onto our card. So this sending warm wishes your way, you can put this like accent piece off to the side. You could put it to the bottom. So like wherever it's most aesthetically pleasing to your eye, it's your card. I like for you to make it the way that you prefer to have it the best. So I was just going to use a little, or I did just use a little bit of liquid glue, and I'm going to put mine, in this case, off to the right a little bit more. So once that's done, that glue dries pretty quick. So once that's done, you're going to grab your dimensionals, and I'm going to use 2 of them. I'm going to put one here and here. I'm not going to put them here and here because then they would be on top of this ribbon, and then they would kind of rock back and forth. Where if you put it on the top and you put it on the bottom, that will help it to support over the top of that ribbon. Okay, so I've got that, and we're going to put that right about here. And you can see what I'm doing is lining up the warm wishes with the ribbon, because then it's centered pretty good. Now we're going to put our copper foil branch on the card. So when it comes to adhering something like this, I don't glue the entire thing. What I would do is, you want to squeeze very gently, otherwise your glue will like ooze all over. But I put thin layers of glue in just different spots throughout here. So got some up there and spread around. It's not over the entire thing. Now when you go to set this down, it's very important that you set it down where you want it versus like over here. Because once you set it down, it's kind of like there's glue all over the place. So you don't want to be squishing that all over and then getting the glue all over your card because it will make it very sticky. So what you want to do is set it down, and then the glue is pretty tacky, so it'll stick on there pretty good. You want to kind of be flush on the side and have your branch kind of going horizontal so he's sitting on it cool. So now that that's glued on, we have our owl, and our owl is popped up with dimensionals. I'm going to use 4 of them here, and I love these little dimensionals. I'm going to tell you over and over again that I always use the bigger ones, but I always had to cut them in half because I like to conserve them. So now I'm going to make it look like his feet are just hanging on that branch just like that. Nice. So we have these 4 little branchy pine cone, I don't know what they're called, pine branches. In this case, again, they're so skinny, you're going to get liquid glue all over the place. So you just want to be careful. I only put a little liquid glue right at the base of it. So this one I'm going to try to tuck underneath here, and I can squish that down using the owl like that. This other one, I'm going to try to put a little less on. It's kind of hard to put a little on. Like even that amount is good. This glue is so tacky. All right, now this guy is going to come shooting out over the side here. Just be careful too, if you put it down in a spot, you want to leave it in that spot and not mush it around because it'll make the card front sticky. All right, then we have one up here at the top that's coming this way. Again, just hold it for a second and then that'll be sticking on there good. And then the last one we're going to put right kind of over the top of it, but shooting out the other way. So it adds a little bit of color, brings out the green from this mat here. You know, we're matching all of our owls with the browns and the creams. I don't know if you noticed it, but there's a little bit of Stella on these pine cone leaf branch things. So I am going to put a little Stella here just so you can see it adds just a little bit to the card. If you want, you can always Stella before you put them on, but I'm just gently going over the top of them. Beautiful, beautiful fall card, kind of manly. So if you got a guy in your life, a friend or a husband or a significant other, very naturey, sending warm wishes your way. It could be for birthday, it could be thinking of you, it could even be like a holiday card for Christmas. Oh, I chose to make it into a birthday card, so you guys gotta go ahead and put your inside mat in here, and that will make that card complete. So I love owls. I'm so excited with this card. He turned out so good. Used a lot of new products from the holiday catalog. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I would truly support your business if you would like to give me that. You can reach me at www.cardsbychrisb.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Cards by Christine. Again, this is Christine Bertram. I enjoyed stamping with you. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good rest of the night or day or whatever you're in. Thanks so much. Bye.